Now, if you work in an office, do you welcome the cakes and sweet treats that colleagues generously bring into work? Or are they a temptation too far, and is it time to ditch this calorific ritual? Well, the head of the UK's Food Standards Agency thinks it is. Professor Susan Jebb has compared being around cake at work to the perils of passive smoking. Well, to discuss cake culture at work, we're now joined from London by the chairman of the National Obesity Forum, Tam Fry. And here in the studio is the health journalist, Pennie Taylor. Thanks so much for joining us. Tam, good to see you. Tell me, do you believe it's as bad as passive smoking, a bit of cake in the office?
I'm not so sure that it's as bad as passive smoking, but I am absolutely sure that Susan Jebb is correct. She wishes you, if you're taking goodies into the office, to protect your friends by not forcing them to choose sugary cakes, biscuits, and chocolates. She knows as well as anybody else that, in fact, sugar is disaster when it comes to obesity, and she's really just being protective. My problem is that it's going to take a lot more than the wish of the chairman of the Food Standards Agency to get this through. It's got to have legislation behind it. Yeah,
Pennie, I mean, it's hard to resist when someone comes in with a lovely cake. What do you think about the cake culture?
I suppose my first reaction was it felt all a bit sort of draconian and joyless, a little bit sort of Nanny Cratchit to be saying you shouldn't be, I assume, not only taking in cakes to work, but even eating your own cake might be triggering for somebody who, felt compelled that way. But I have to say, I've never had a cake forced on me at work. There is an element of choice in it. But I very much agree that actually that is a tiny little drop in a massive, massive bucket that needs changing.
Yeah, I mean, in Tam, people can say no. And is it not quite good for the morale of an office, for people's mental health, to be gathered around a birthday cake or something?
Well, it's fine, but why do you choose cakes and biscuits and chocolate? Why not choose something much healthier like fruit? Fruit is wonderful, and you can enjoy yourself and chat between yourselves eating a banana or orange or whatever, just as well as you can with stuffing yourself with a cake.
Yeah, what do you think about that? People could bring in healthier options like carrots or apples, or I have to say some person brought apples into the newsroom in the summer and everyone was like, no, you're all right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in my experience, sitting down at a coffee break or something and sharing a biscuit or two, arguably is a really good thing to do. I think now if somebody were to hand me a rice cake instead of a slice of cake for a birthday celebration or something, I might think they were trying to make a point, and it might not be all that good for office relations.
Yeah. I mean, Tam, do you think there's maybe an argument that employers should ban employees from bringing in things like cakes and treats?
Well, it's certainly happening in schools, and it is now in many schools, parents are forbidden to send their children in with birthday cakes and things like that. The extension of that will be that employers do the same. I'm not so sure that that is too draconian. I would much prefer employers to be happy to have people sit around and talk to each other with a bowl of fruit, in fact, as I've said. But whatever happens, it's going to be greatly unpopular. But I have to remind you that so are all the other things which we now do for granted, like seatbelts. They were unpopular at first, and then people got used to them.
Yeah.
The one thing that I hope will happen, and as I was talking today to other stations, is that employers will actually be forced to look after their employees much better than they do at the moment.
Yeah, and obesity...
This was a suggestion which came up at the conference at which Susan Jebb was speaking. And I'm particularly impressed at what happens in Japan, where employers are actually penalized if they fail to look after their patients. And once a year, their staff. And once a year, the staff have their waist circumference taken. And if the circumference falls outside the regular, then the employers are fined.
That is
or
draconian, Penny. What do you think about that?
well,
Obesity is a big problem. in
Yeah, but it's a
Scotland.
very different culture. I'm not sure it would go down at
Yeah.
all well here. I mean, I don't know if you remember when some celebrity chef suggested that children should no longer have chips. There were loads of parents shoving them through railings, you know, angry, I think, at being talked to that way, at being treated that way. There is no doubt we have a very serious issue with obesity, particularly in Scotland. Something like 2/3 of us across the UK are reckoned to be overweight, and there are definite health consequences to that. You see type 2 diabetes, heart disease, all sorts of other things that are related to being overweight. There's clearly an issue. But, you know, the elephant in the room is, why do we still have television advertising for junk food? Why are there still buy one, get one frees?
And we could talk about this for the rest of the evening. Maybe we should cut down the cake. I like a bit myself. But Tam and Penny, thank you both very much indeed